Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Post in Black, where we celebrate Black excellence behind the lens. Today, we have a very, very Emmy Award-winning special episode with you with Taylor Joy Mason, picture editor. Welcome to Post in Black, Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great.
It's a pleasure. I'm honored. And this right here, this is bigger than I thought it would be. For those that are not watching and listening, we have an Emmy for a Black Lady sketch show, which Taylor was working on, and it's sitting on the table, and it looks bigger than what I thought it would be.
It's heavier, too.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Well, we're going to get into that, but we do have an icebreaker for you, as we always start out with. Icebreaker for you today, because you are very hilarious, you're funny, you're creative, you work on a hilarious show. How would you rate your laugh out of a 10? 1 out of 10. How would you rate your laugh?
It's a -5.
-5?
Hate my laugh.
Really?
Yes.
I asked that question because sometimes people say, oh, I don't like my laugh, or I don't like my smile. Is that the case?
It's very much the case. I've actively tried to change my... I don't want to do it now.
Really?
Yeah, that was a little bit. But no, when something's really funny, I kind of laugh like goofy.
Okay.
It's a little like it's not cute at all. And yeah.
That makes me laugh. That's funny.
It does.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Well, you know what? Thank you for at least admitting that and sharing that. That's a lot. You know, you're very open. We're starting off on a good foot. Obviously, we know a little bit about you, but can you tell the people a little bit about yourself and where you're from, where you grew up? Obviously, I see you have a shirt on right there.
Yes.
Where you went to school.
Yeah. The prestigious.
Let the people know.
Howard University.
All right.
I'm originally from Seattle, Washington. Okay. I'll say Atlanta by way of Seattle.
Okay.
I moved to Atlanta, I think, in the middle of high school, beginning of high school.
Yeah.
Which was a culture shock, but so glad I did. And then, right after high school, just followed up in DC at Howard.
Yeah.
And so I had a nice little
smiley
face, and then finished school in Los Angeles at the American Film Institute.
Okay.
So.
Wow. What was it like growing up in Seattle? I have a good friend that's from Seattle. He loves it. And my dad once said it's one of the best cities he's ever been to. What was it like growing up there?
I mean, I will say growing up there is much different than living somewhere else and moving to Seattle.
I see.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I had, I think, a great childhood. It was fun. I was always outside.
Yeah.
I was riding horses, picking huckleberries. I mean, it doesn't even sound real.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very strange. And I mean, I think moving from Seattle to Atlanta was a little challenging, but I wouldn't change a thing.
Okay.
It was in hindsight, it's like an amazing social experiment.
Yeah.
Kind of growing up with one demographic and switching to another.
And going to another.
And then, I was able to kind of reconcile all of that experience at Howard with resources and information.
How was that like being at Howard? Obviously, growing up, my brother and I were born in D.C. and grew up. For my friends that are from D.C., no, we're from Northern Virginia originally. But being in D.C. a little bit, obviously, that's a unique experience itself. What was it like being at Howard?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was challenging because I was playing volleyball at the same time. So, I mean, as much I wanted to be a part of kind of the average student body who gets to kind of go out and party and go to, G-Dub or Georgetown or George Mason, just have like,
just
a good
normal
time.
College time, yeah.
And we were always on the road and working. I had basically a full-time job while I was in school. But we had our fun, and, I think that's an experience that the closest I've had to that experience is actually on a Black Lady sketch show. But outside of that, you're not going to get that anywhere.
No,
it was amazing.
HBCUs are needed. They are amazing. Growing up, like I went to Howard's homecoming when I was 17, 18. I got to see it when I was very young. But that was something I wasn't like, I just didn't know. I just thought that was normal. And then living in PG County, then Northern Virginia, I grew up around a lot of Black people most of my life. So I didn't really know about it. But once I got down, I went to Hampton and I saw the water and I was like, oh, that's cool. Howard was so close. I was like, I don't want to go. I want to go far.
Yeah.
But just the HBCU experience as a whole, I tell everybody, even if you don't go to one, you got to go to a homecoming. You got to visit because it's like a family reunion with people that, from generations past. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, that makes sense. Like, You're right. You're in DC. I don't know why you wouldn't go to Howard, but I guess seeing it your whole life, I would want to kind of get out.
Yeah, my dad went to Maryland. I wanted to go there, and then Howard. I was like, I think my dad said if you go to Howard, you can't live on campus. You know, you're gonna live with somebody else. And I was like, I don't want to take the metro, and I want to be like a real student. Yeah, you know what I mean. So I was gonna be like a local. So that was the main reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably smart. It was probably for the best.
Probably.
Howard can be wild, but it's a great school, and I wouldn't change.
Yeah. Well, shout out to my mother. She's a Howard grad, and she said to say hello and love to you.
Tell her thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. HU.
Tell her HU. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. I know.
Right, You're like, you already know to pass that message.
Right. Well, look, we're going to dive into a little bit. Obviously, we're here. We're talking about Posting Black, and you yourself are an editor. How did you get started as an editor? You know, tell us a little bit about your trajectory and your career, and what even intrigued you in the industry.
Sure. I actually started pretty late.
Okay.
At Howard.
Yeah.
It was I was a journalism major, journalism poli-sci, and I took this broadcast class, and we were tasked with shooting and editing our own news packages.
Okay.
I think this is the first time I shot anything too, so the footage was terrible. But I remember I was digitizing all of my they were mini DVs at the time. Mm-hmm. And just thinking, this is so tedious. Why on earth would anybody do this? And then, organizing everything. So clearly I wasn't assisting wasn't where my heart was. But the moment I started to actually put the story together and then changed it and made it a little bit better just by swapping clips. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. I mean, as great as a story about intramural volleyball could be, but it was just, I wasn't prepared to be able to have that kind of control with the story that I was trying to tell. So, I think from then on, I kind of wanted to look into it a little bit more. I took as many film classes as I could with my extracurricular credits. And then, after that, just decided to go to film school at AFI to just kind of learn more. Yeah.
What was it like, making that transition to AFI? Once you knew what you wanted to do, was it a step up in, you're working at Howard, you're kind of playing around, you're figuring it out, but then you go and you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. What was the learning curve once you got there?
Okay, so I actually didn't know that's what I wanted to pursue at that point. I was interested after Howard, but there was this time in between. It was about a year in between that I worked for Ebony. Mm-hmm. I was one of the models on Ebony Fashion Fair. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's kind of like, it was a 51st annual.
Really?
And so I was on a bus with, I don't know if there were 9 or 12 of us, 12 models, one road manager and one host. Mm-hmm. And it was wild, not wild, trouble wild, but just, there was a lot of personalities traveling and I wanted to capture as much as I could. Yeah. So I shot everything and everyone else kind of shot. I think it was we just had digital cameras at the time.
Oh, wow.
And towards the end of the tour, everyone gave me their footage and I was like, I'll just put something cute together for, the last hurrah party. And I put together something insane, but it was really good. And at least for my level at the time. And I was like, this is something I could do. Mm-hmm. We all watched it at the end and we were all on the bus watching it and everyone was just laughing. And it was just getting that feedback and, the positive reviews or whatever you want to call it was, that's what made me say, oh, maybe this is something I could actually get paid for.
I got you.
So that's when I applied to AFI through someone I met who introduced me to the actual school. And from there on, I just kind of dove.
That's really interesting. Now, I do ask that question a lot just to kind of see people's trajectory because some people are like, oh, I just fell into it. And then some are like, no, I knew I wanted to do this. And then, good friend probably Daisha. I remember her, when she talked about her trajectory watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and watching, how do they cut this? And I was looking at, I like the voices that the characters do. So how our two different minds worked. Once you're at AFI, once you're like, I can do this and make a living. How hard is it to get into actually being an editor? You know what I mean? Like to get a job because, even as an actor, people are like, well, now you're going to be funny. You're going to go tell, the quote that you see on social media all the time is like, hey, when you going to ask Tyler Perry to put you in one of his movies? And it's like, I can't just call up TP and be like, hey, man, I'm an actor. My aunt says I'm really good. What's up? How does it go about for you getting jobs and then consistency all the way to even where we're looking at this Emmy on the table?
I mean, I will say getting your foot in the door is really difficult. That is one of the perks, I think, of going to a film school and a film school with decent alum that, you know, have stuff out there that people know of by name. It's, I think it was integral, I guess, in all of my opportunities after school. Just because I received a lot of those from people I either went to school with or who attended AFI before me. They were also mentors while in school and outside of school. And so I had a really big support system while I was there. Outside of school, I don't think film school is necessary, but I will say that because getting your foot in the door is very challenging, that is one of the biggest perks.
While you're at film school, you know, you talk about the relationships, the mentors, was there any teachers or, you know, how big was the class? And then was there anybody that looked like you? You know, that's a big thing that we always like to find out too. Like what, you know, how was it when you finally jump in there and you're like, wait, am I doing the right thing? Because there's not any other Black people in this room.
I had a few mentors. One was a friend of mine who introduced me to the school, who was an alum, and his name is Josh Lawrence. We're still friends to this day. Yeah. He's no longer editing. He's in Connecticut with kids, like, you know, outside of his computer room, running through the grass, which I dream of sometimes. But anyway, so he was one of them. He's like the first person that kind of shaped the world of editing in my mind and made it, you know, appealing to me as a career path. And then once I was there were, I mean, I think our class was an anomaly in that we only had one white male in our editing class. Yeah. The rest were women and, you know, men of color. And I think we had maybe 9 women and 5 men in our class.
Are you still connected to any of them as well?
Yes, we're all very close. The whole class outside of editing too is very close. Okay, that's nice. I'm not sure about the other classes. I want to say ours is
one, you know, cut above the rest. You know, see what I did there? A cut above the rest. Oh, never mind.
Wait, what did you say?
I said a cut above the rest. You know, I was trying.
Yeah, I mean, you know, thank you. You said it. I didn't. Yeah. But yeah, no, we had a very tight knit class, and we were supportive then, and we're still supportive of each other now, and so that's really helpful. Right. I know Denise Davis is. I know she's a kind of a fixture in a lot of our lives because she has been our cheerleader, has recommended us for jobs, has connected us with people who'd be great collaborators. Like she's looked out for at least myself and a lot of my colleagues. And I I don't know what, if I didn't go to school with her, I probably wouldn't have that relationship with her at all.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, I'm super thankful for.
Yeah, and I love the work that she's done.
Oh yeah,
you know, as well. So
it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah. And that's got to be really cool to see, you know, a classmate like that and to have you guys climbing the ranks in similar circles and like rooting each other on from afar. You know,
absolutely.
That's fire. That's fire.
Yeah.
What would you say is, as getting in post, what would you say is one of the hardest things that, you know, not knowing much about it and starting later, as you kind of mentioned, what was the hardest thing to adjust to once you started working in post? Because, you know, it's a technical skill, but there's a lot of patience. You know, there's a lot of things that behind the scenes you may have to learn. What was hard for you to maybe adjust, or where you're like, nah, I'm pretty good at this from the jump?
Patience is key. I think what was great about school is that I knew my skill set. Technically, I was trained really well, and so I was pretty confident leaving school about all of those abilities. But I was, I think, wanting to like edit as much as I could and like just try to, and so I was assisting right out of school.
Okay. Yeah.
And that you need to be patient with assisting, do the job, and like kind of just take everything in, you know? And for me, I was just like, I can cut this, or tell me if you need interstitials, if you need comings up, I'll cut them, whatever you need, you know, just, I was really eager. Yeah. Luckily, I was working for people who were also eager and understood the you know, I don't know, excitement and wanting to jump in the chair. And so I got, you know, lots of opportunities from them to cut on those things. But it was just kind of about like relaxing and trying to just take baby steps and learn everything I could and appreciate the opportunities that I had while I was there. So I'm really patience with self, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Something that's very obvious to me, and probably those that are listening and watching. You seem to have a joy, and that's no pun intended. I don't know what I'm doing with this episode. There's there's some joy to what you're talking about. You have joy about like, loving editing and describing the techniques and all of that. What's the most fun? And we can go into. We're going to talk about Black Lady Sketch Show and some of the other projects you worked on. But how can I phrase this? What's the most thing that gives you the most excitement about, getting new footage and saying, okay, now I get the craft and get into this. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is seeing it from the jump, gets you excited. An actor, maybe a script, a director, maybe a shot that they want to do, a DP. What gets you going when you see something and you're like, oh, I'm ready to jump into this and make it my own?
I was thinking about this today because I was cutting a scene. I'm on a horror film currently.
Okay.
And I was cutting a scene that was one way when I read it. I envisioned it one way when I read it. And then when I saw the footage, I was like, oh my God. Oh, this is going to be good. Like and was just, I got the same rush that I would get when I don't know if anyone's gonna be able to really relate to this, but when I played Barbies when I was a kid and how excited I got playing with Barbies and like my toys, that's the same feeling I get when I get a scene that I'm very excited to cut. Very cool. I'm getting ready to play.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't really articulate that feeling, but I guess it's just the opportunity to create something out of nothing or create something different than anticipated, or just elevate the story in all the myriad of ways you can through editing. That's just exciting.
Yeah.
And
I love that. And that is very clear. I get that comparison, because there's a joy, there's a pureness, when children, you're playing, or even if you were playing last night, I don't know if you maybe talk about what you're doing yesterday, it could be as an adult, but there are so many things that relatable to that feeling of it. Now, something that I thought about just when you said that, you said you're working on a horror film now. You have worked on Black Lady Sketch Show, comedy. So you're versatile. Can you talk about that? The different, maybe is there a different brain that you put on, like a different hat that you put on to kind of go between the genres, or maybe even tapping in the documentary or unscripted? Like, what is that mindset, and how do you like shed all that and like, all right, this is a horror, I can't make this funny. You know what I mean? Like, she's still trying to make it different. If that makes sense to me.
I mean, this might not serve me well, but I tend to find humor in everything, almost just too much. Like I'm working on trying to be a more serious person. But so even, when I'm cutting this film, there are moments of comedy that you actually need because you need some levity to get you to experience the horror a little bit, harder. And so it still comes in handy, but the switch happens when I'm just watching dailies and I'm looking, at actors' eyes or performances. Like they take me, if they're good, usually they take me right where I need to be.
Yeah.
Or there was one time I was working on sketch show and I was rapping on Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story.
Jeffrey Dahmer, yeah.
Or now I should say I was rapping on Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. That's what it's officially called. So I had Monster in my living room, or Dahmer in my living room, and I had sketch show in my kitchen. And it was only about a week overlap, but it was like wild for my brain.
Yeah.
I appreciated it though, because I could instantly, like when Dahmer got tough, because it is a tough story because it really actually happened. It's not your average, horror.
No, it's real.
It was nice to be able to walk into, my kitchen and laugh at Robin and Gabrielle just doing ridiculous stuff. And that made the switch really easy.
Yeah.
But I just remember that week, I was like, what is my life? What is happening?
There's a lot.
Should I go to therapy? I feel like this isn't healthy. But I mean, the switch has been pretty easy for me so far.
No, it's like you're like setting a character. You're setting a role. You're jumping into it. Now, you mentioned Black Lady Sketch Show. We got to talk about that. And I know you've been talking about it a lot lately, but it's just congratulations to you and everybody in the team. We're happy for you. Obviously, being fans of the show, and then having Stephanie on before and Daisha, and now seeing you, Braden, the whole team. Talk about that experience. How did you even get the job to be on the show? Can you talk about that?
Well, Daisha, who I worked with on my first editing gig, which I got from Denise, who referred me. Man, it's just one big family. Anyway,
small world.
So she recommended me to Robin just to interview and see if it works out. And that was, I think, that was 2019, before COVID, before season 2.
For season 2, yeah.
And I was still pretty new. I mean, 20s was my first credit. So I was still new as an editor. And I interviewed with Robin and Lauren Ashley Smith, who, I mean, the interview went well. And Robin and Ashley liked me and thought we'd collaborate well together. Right. But I think I was too new at the time, and HBO was like, nah, we need a couple more credits first. Like, pump the brakes. So after I worked on Pose, it was Pose and then Monster. Yeah. And then that's when HBO and Sketch were like, yeah, come on over. Don't interview, just come over. Yeah. So I got all the hard work out of the way. Right. And I was just able to jump on season 3. Yeah. And to work with Stephanie Braden and Robin Wilson was great because I went to school with Robin.
Really? I mean, you guys, you're a network. That's crazy.
It's network is like amazing. And especially as a Black woman, network is very important. More so for support than anything. Right. But I can talk about that later.
For sure.
But yeah, Robin I went to school with, and Braden and Stephanie I worked with in the Ryan Murphy world. And so it was just kind of like coming home, working with family, you know. We never skipped a beat. Our DMs and text chains are ridiculous.
It shows that you all are pretty tight and close. And I think how does that help your editing? Obviously, I talked to Braden and Stephanie. We did a live with them before, and how the process is for like editing a sketch or who takes on. But how does that work in terms of like when you're working together, collaborating to put this whole entire show together?
Yeah,
like a show of sketches.
I mean, it was pretty seamless. My experience, we have a pretty good shorthand. It's usually with just sounds.
Okay.
Like, or just I mean, we all do, but it's like with us, I kind of know what's going to appeal to Braden versus what's going to appeal to Stephanie and vice versa. And so, we show each other sketches and get real feedback, like nothing sugar coated, just we're not going to get our feelings hurt or anything. And it's really fulfilling to see someone laugh out loud, literally. And you're like, okay, no, I know this is funny because that is your real laugh. Like that is authentic. Like you do really think this is funny. You're not just trying to be nice. So, I mean, it was pretty easy, and effortless.
Is there a memorable cut? And obviously that can be on all your projects, but obviously from Black Lady Sketch Show, is there a memorable, episode? I think I remember talking to them. I'm like, it's hard to pick, but there was the lotion, the ash. I forget the name of that sketch, but the lack of Ashy Sunday. My goodness, I had tears, and I had to watch it again because I missed so many little moments within that sketch. Is there something that stands out to you? Like, oh, I cut that. Oh, that was funny.
Oh yeah,
that was great.
I was talking to someone the other day. There's so many moments and so many sketches that I call my favorite.
Yeah, okay.
Not all can be my favorite. It's really hard to pick one, so it might change tomorrow. But I think that Track Girl Magic might have been my favorite because Robin's character is just so.
And those of you that
home.
if you don't know, we're talking about Robin Thede, the brainchild behind this amazing series that got picked up for another season. So we're excited for you all as well. But go ahead, continue, please.
Robin Thede and Robin Wilson.
Yeah, exactly.
Those.
Separate.
Robin's character hit so close to home because I have had a few Coach Butlers in my life. Growing up, running track, playing volleyball, basketball, soccer, all that. And she nailed it. And her improv was ridiculous. And I wish I could just kind of lay out all the dailies and they could air because it'd be just as entertaining.
That's the thing.
Yeah. And then just to have Carrie Champion on was really fun. And, she's funny in her own right.
Right.
So it's like.
And she gets to let loose. She's working with Black women and just kind of get to cut up and be herself, what she normally can't do when she's at work professionally.
Which is really nice to see in the dailies. Like it's kind of just cathartic because I'm laughing at my end when they're joking on screen. Yeah. Just out like before action, And it's just, I don't know, it's cathartic and especially when you're sitting alone in a room all day cutting by yourself, it's just nice to see that rewarding on screen and feel like I don't know.
Is it hard to leave some stuff out? Because you know what I mean? Like, what is that like, you know, for this type of show? What we see is not everything that happened. You're like, okay, it's like a little vote. Like everybody's like, all right, are we voting to do this? So you can kind of make it the last call. Or is it Robin's like, you know what? I like that, but I want this one. I want this take better.
Yeah.
Yeah. More so like that.
I mean, it's definitely Robin's call.
Yeah, for sure.
Luckily she's funny. So like the, you know, the stuff that's in there is always good.
Right.
But there are so many moments, and I think this says more about me, is like my sense of humor is pretty crass. So when there's anything on there that we're like, I don't know if the church moms are gonna appreciate that one. You know, I'll usually put the crass one in, and we'll have to dial it back a little bit because their improv is crazy. So you want to just so yeah, sometimes I try to, like, I usually lean in the direction of, you know, we got to pull this back. But
I like that though, because if you give more, you can always come back.
Yeah,
if you give, you know,
exactly.
like the twerking chihuahua,
right?
You know?
And you can still try to recreate the sentiment, just maybe not use that word, or you know, it's just so that's, you know, that's always challenging. Having too much good material is a great problem to have, but still, you know, I guess a problem. But yeah. So, but we do have, I think this was the first year we had outtakes, and they weren't real outtakes. They were actually just other takes that we couldn't use, or we didn't have time to use. So it was nice to have that that bit at the end.
Yeah, no, I like that in the season. I noticed that bit, and it was always like something to look forward to in the next episode. I was like, what are they going to use from this one? It was very, very cool to see.
Yeah.
One thing I will ask you, you know, we could talk for days, obviously, but I want to talk about how it is for you and like the next generation. Is there like a desire sometimes to like see more people of color in the editing room? Obviously, you get to work in a unique situation where you're working with all black people and then a black showrunner, but that's not always the case. And what would you say to somebody like starting out that may like get into these rooms and be the only one, like the encouragement to kind of push through in this field, which doesn't always look like them, and at times may not always be embracing?
Yeah. I mean, I would say two very important things are needed for, I think, longevity. I mean, I'm just getting started, but I think it's necessary to have a support system. Yeah. Specifically for Black women, it's necessary to have a support system within the industry of other Black women. And it's important to tell everyone you know that this is something you want to do. Yeah. I think that the support system is necessary. Oh, actually, can I run that back?
No, yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's necessary for Black women to have a support system within the industry made up of other Black women. But I also think it is like imperative that you have the ability to maintain this sense of delusion. Okay. While navigating through this, because there are so many messages that you get that this is not for you, or this is not, you know, this isn't a role for for Black women, at least that I've received, but have completely just not even, they've barely hit me, just because. And I think growing up in Seattle has helped me with this in some weird way. Yeah, growing up in a predominantly white city. Yeah. I never walked into a room and thought about race. It was rare, which is weird. You think it would be the opposite. Right. But because there wasn't a lot of different people in one area, there wasn't a lot of clashing, there wasn't a lot of like racial tension. So it was rarely on my mind. So I walked into rooms just like expecting to be respected like anybody else, like Sarah over here. Yeah. And it'd be weird if they didn't. And it's like a weird audacity to have. We should all have, but it's weird because it's not easy or natural to have it in this country. So I took that kind of audacity with me to Georgia and DC, and it's with me now when I walk into rooms, and it doesn't really matter who's in the room. Like I expect to be respected. Right. And so I think that delusion's necessary when you have to protect yourself in certain ways in this industry. Yeah. And it also, I mean, people learn how to treat you in that way.
They do. You teach people how to treat you.
So it was helpful. I mean, sometimes I'm like, okay, Taylor, relax, like calm down. Like I walk around too much like I'm some white man named Tom sometimes. Like I'd be like, all right, like calm down. Like you're not going to sue everybody. So I just think it's necessary to kind of just block out all the BS and realize that you're just as good and capable as everybody else in the room, if not more. Yeah. You just haven't had the opportunities to. So just lead with that.
Come on, y'all. Y'all hear what's going on over here? She said, I expect to be respected. And that's on Emmy.
That's on
Emmy. What else are you working on? Can we keep in mind to stay tapped in, and where can people follow you to stay in contact with you?
I'm currently working on this horror called Birth Rebirth.
Okay.
I can't say much more than that, but I think it's going to be great, and I'm really excited for people to see it. And you can find me posting ridiculous things on. I'm actually in the process of changing my socials right now.
Yeah.
So I can send.
We'll update.
They'll be here. Check them out. 1, 2, 3. Here.
Yeah, they'll be up there. That's fine.
I look into this camera way too often.
No, it's so bad.
Anyway, so yeah, and then we'll see what happens after that.
I'm excited. This was great, and this right here, just I know obviously we don't do the jobs for the awards, but it's always nice to get recognized for the hard work you do, and it's fun. You're laughing in that room and having fun with your team, but it is nice to be appreciated because it is hard work. You guys make it look easy. Again, shout out to Robin Thede, the whole team, Robin Wilson, Braden. I mean, Steph, you guys are amazing, and I'm really happy for you, and glad we got to get you in studio.
Yes, likewise.
In person. And we are live. I didn't mention this at the top of the thing, but we are live at Dr. Self Tape.
I'm sorry,
If y'all don't know, we are live at Dr. Self Tape.
We're live?
No, not live.
Oh,
We're in person at Dr. Self Tape. She was like, live?
Hold on.
This is funny, but we're at Dr. Self Tape. My guys, they just hold it down for us for the Post in Black, so we appreciate you. For those of you watching, make sure you stay tuned and tapped into us. Follow us on all of our social media channels and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Made for More Entertainment. And I say that again because I stumbled over my words. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Made for More Entertainment. We'll see you next time. Stay black. We got an Emmy, y'all. Look at that.